Yeah, good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm just going to give everyone a minute or two to join the session. I see the spectators are popping up as we go. So just give another minute or two for people to join. In the meantime, this is the webinar you signed up for today. We're very happy to have the AgriPath team with us. And we're going to cover the Global Project and Digital Advisory Services Toolkit, some of the tools and resources that have also been developed in part of it as Digital RAS continues to evolve, as the scenery continues to change, especially as we say with AI, artificial intelligence entering the field. Here are some of our speakers of today. I will introduce them one by one as we move to their own sections and portions. My name is Ingrid Oliveira. I'm from the Global Secretariat of GFRAS, the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. And we are here today with Nicole and Bobbi from AgriPath and the University of Bern and the Grameen Foundation, as we talk about the AgriPath Global Project, the overview of this toolkit, how digital advisory services are supporting scaling sustainable agricultural practices, real-world examples of public-private collaboration models. We'll talk about this later. And how you can access this toolkit and look at some of those resources yourselves. Maybe just for a couple of house rules or information, you can, now we have made the chat open. So you can also use the chat to introduce yourselves, talk about who you are, what this interests you. We're also making a Q&A. You can, as we are talking, as the presenters are talking, you can ask questions. We'll address those after the first 30 minutes. We booked around 45 minutes for today's session. So we just want a bit of an energizing discussion during the day. We won't keep you for very long, but hopefully the resources and the skills, the tools that are shared here are things that you can use and will keep you serving in a long time. I guess that's it. We will share this recording with everyone who registered, even if people are not able to attend. So if you, for whatever reason, have to leave early, you will receive in a couple of days also the complete recording of today's session. I will also put it available on the GFRAS website and YouTube channel. So I guess for the start, this would be it. I would like to pass the word or open the floor and invite you to listen to Nicole. Nicole Harari is a research scientist at the University of Bern Center for Development and Environment, the CDE, where she focuses on sustainable land management and scaling agricultural solutions. She works extensively on knowledge systems and decision support tools that help farmers and institutions adopt sustainable practices, and has supported implementation across more than 20 countries. Within the AgriPath project, she contributes to advancing digital advisory services that enable more inclusive and effective agricultural transformation. And that's a bit of what she's going to present today. So, Nicole, I'm happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Can you see it full screen? Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah. Great. So I will just take a couple of minutes to introduce all of you to the project itself, from where these resources that you'll be introduced to today were generated. And the project is a global project with various partners, and today we are here from the University of Bern CDE and Grameen Foundation, but there were also other colleagues involved from different institutions. So why AgriPath? Why did we develop AgriPath? I think considering that this was more than 5 years ago, there were these questions that we had or elements that we considered when putting together this project. So basically, hopping on the opportunity of digital advisory at the time past COVID, we had seen that there was a lot of rethinking in many countries. So this seemed to be an opportunity to do or dig deeper into how can we promote digital advisory. Also in this situation that mobile phone penetration had been increasing and thus can really be leveraged to provide accessible and latest information to farmers on sustainable agriculture, good practices. At the time, so more than 5 years ago, we also saw that there was a crucial knowledge gap on the effectiveness of the digital advisory solutions, that the many that were at the time already out there, but of course, since then, many more have popped up. And we also saw that the difficulties to reach specific groups, such as women or young farmers, so also the project focused quite a bit on that. And eventually, a question also, or what we saw was that very little of these digital advisory solutions that were out actually made it, and many were project-based and short-living solutions that with the project cycles coming to an end slowly died. So these were some of the observations we had, at the project start, and why we came up with AgriPath to really look at mainly three different things. So on one hand, to look at these different DAS delivery models. So whether an agent-based, a self-service, or a hybrid solution actually has the most impact, is mostly used. So to really evaluate the efficiency and the effectiveness of DAS under these three delivery models, we looked at barriers and factors leading eventually to really successful behavior change in sustainable agriculture, and also how these results can be scaled. And that's amongst others through also the toolkit that you will be hearing about, as well as the application that we had used as a proxy for the research throughout this project, called Farm Better, that I will come to in a minute. And overall, the aim was to reach 50,000 smallholder farmers. I think we have at the moment reached that, with tailored advice to really support adoption of sustainable agriculture practices, but then also to really work with the development community and task providers to see which of these models work and what should be taken into consideration when thinking about scaling up gender-sensitive tasks. So that's the project in a nutshell, with the final aim, of course, to bring sustainable agriculture to scale through these different task delivery models and task pathways. We worked under various work packages with different responsibilities. So looking at really the research side of things through the University of Lausanne and ICP, looking at the levels of DAS adoption, gender, household, and then also looking at what does it mean in terms of long-term behavioral change. So there are several also papers, etc., coming out on that, which you are very welcome to consult also on the AgriPath website. It's all available there. And then working, as I said, with a startup in the field called Farm Better, and with Grameen Foundation on capacity development and scaling. The project had worked in different countries, so from Burkina, Uganda, Tanzania, India, and Nepal. And in each country, we were working with a local host organization also to really embed the project at the national level, and working also with the National Steering Committee to support the activities. Coming to the digital solution, as I said, that was on one hand used to do the research on the ground, but also then promote it as a solution for farmers on the ground. This was, or is, the Farm Better application that empowers farmers to become more climate resilient, by matching the farmer's location and situation to tailored and actionable sustainable land management practices that are stemming from the global VOCAT Sustainable Land Management Database. And the solution also connects an advisor with farmers, and so the extension advisor can provide advice through the extension version of the application. And here you can see on screen the interface that was or is used for in Nepali in Nepal, so that was also adapted to the different country contexts. As I said, the application links to the VOCAT Global Sustainable Land Management Database. So this is an existing database that we host here at CDE for the last 30 years that includes a lot of data on good land management practices in multiple languages, really from many different countries, over 130 countries across the globe. And it contains information, as you can see here, also a lot of good practices that relate to how farmers can adapt to climate change extremes and its impact. So you can see here plenty of different solutions that have been documented on the ground and that were linked into this Farm Better app to really provide this knowledge to farmers through a different interface than what we have here on the VOCAT database, which is not a platform that is meant to be used by farmers directly. So basically you can see here the different versions of the application that were tested, the Farm Better application. So on one hand, the Farm Better extension app, the Farm Better app, that is the self-service model, and then the hybrid model, including also this chatbot where farmers were grouped and were talking to each other also through that bot. So there are these different models that were tested also in the various countries. And to come to an end, just very, very brief, some findings. You can find more in these publications and also on the website itself. So this is very superficial, but just to say that what we saw in now over these years is really that agent-led engagement remains vital across all 5 countries. We saw differences between countries. So in India, hybrid models showed a comparative advantage in accelerating awareness of newer practices, for instance, mulching or drainage ditches or crop diversification, and also blending the agent-led facilitation with digital reinforcement. It's achieved a deeper penetration and better retention of knowledge. In Burkina Faso, there were some insights on the collaboration really with the government and public extension to really align that with the processes under AgriPath, and there are still exchanges ongoing with the government on how these learnings could be integrated now in the government's e-extension strategy potentially. And from Uganda and Tanzania, we saw that WhatsApp chat or the chatbot led by an agent provided a useful space for learning and knowledge exchange. So the hybrid model was really mainly useful for farmers on the ground. So that's it from my side, just very briefly on the findings, but of course we are happy to also share more. And you can visit the website, but also reach out to us if you are interested to receive more of the findings from AgriPath. And back to you, Ingrid.
Thank you very much, Nicole. As I said, people can contact you directly for more information. We will also share all of the presentations and, as I said, the recording with everyone who registered and is here as well. So you will be able to, to revisit some of the things that were talked about today, so you can see what actually would be a good connector with the work that you do. So we will circulate all of this information. We encourage you again. I see that people are using the chat. We are almost 80 people here today, so that's very nice. People are using the chat, but you can also use the Q&A function if you have specific questions, and we hope they do come up. If you want to understand whether something can also or has touched or is applicable to work that you have been doing, or if you want to know more about the resources and the methodology, the different things that were used along the way to develop both the toolkit and also what we will keep presenting for today. So we encourage you to do that. Now we will move and give the floor to Bobbi Gray, who will talk about one of the many things that came out of AgriPath as we continue today's program. So Bobbi is Associate Vice President of Programs at the Grameen Foundation, where she leads research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning across programs in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. With over a decade of experience in development research, she specializes in using data and evidence to strengthen financial inclusion, agricultural livelihoods, and resilience among vulnerable communities. Her work bridges research and practice, ensuring that insights translate into real-world impact at scale. Bobbi, the floor is yours. I think you have 15 minutes. But anyway, we'll just keep the conversation going.
Great. Thank you, Ingrid. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have such a great group of people here today. As Ingrid said, for 20 years, basically, I've been leading research and evaluation at Grameen, but also support implementation of many of our projects. Today, I'm going to talk about the AgriPath toolkit that Nicole referenced earlier. Grameen Foundation is an international development organization based out of DC. We have deep history in the microfinance sector, but currently kind of work across gender, climate, and finance with technology as an enabler for a lot of the work that we do. So as Nicole said, we've been testing out these different strategies to scale digital advisory services, or DAS. And as part of that, we've developed a toolkit that looks at the role that agents play in scaling digital technology. So we focused on DOS, but I think this is applicable for any of the digital services that are attempting to scale within the agricultural sector. So the toolkit itself was designed for digital advisory service stakeholders, especially those that have smartphone-based DOS applications. The audience has kind of evolved as we've been developing this toolkit. The QR code here will take you to the AgriPath website and straight to where the toolkit is. So the audience that we have are primarily those that we think are trying to scale technology, but you'll see in the development of the toolkit, there are actually tools that I think are equally applicable to those supporting agents in the field and kind of draw on all of the experience in the sector for recruiting, training, and monitoring the performance of agents. So here is the content. I will say kind of upfront that this toolkit is a series of templates that we think help practitioners do their work at the quality that you need to support agents and scale. So I'm going to kind of go through each of these areas. I'm going to touch on them because there's a lot going on here, but just to set the stage that right now, if you visit the toolkit online, you'll see that there are most of these are box folder kind of Word documents. Eventually, we will finalize these. We've been in a period where we've been inviting people to contribute input and kind of provide us recommendations on how to strengthen the tools. And we will maintain people's access to these Word documents or Excel or PowerPoint documents because we feel like it will enable people to actually use the tools without having to recreate them. So there will be PDF versions of these, but then we will also maintain access to the original document so that people can adapt any of the tools for their own purposes. So at a high level, the toolkit looks at supporting stakeholders to understand their digital ecosystem, how to build a scalable DOS business model. So this actually looks at the technology providers themselves. And then how do you identify existing networks of agents How do you recruit them? How do you train them? And how do you monitor them? So when you look at the understanding your digital ecosystem, there's an introduction document that kind of pulls on all of the research and experience in the sector. It's just meant to kind of introduce why we chose the tools that we did. And then underneath this section, we have like a desk research template, like how can you look at all the factors in an ecosystem to help you understand the points of entry, the challenges, the opportunities you may face in working in a particular context. We draw on the mobile connectivity desk research or the GSMA's mobile connectivity index, basically how to use that tool to understand the different factors in a context that will enable or kind of challenge the ability to scale a technology in a particular context. And then we have a mobile phone specification assessment. We've kind of learned ourselves that, you really have to go to the field and understand what phones people are actually using, how much space do they have on them, and a lot of this will tell you how likely you're able to scale a technology in a given context. We have also recently added a introduction to public-private partnerships, and this is actually where Ingrid is going to come in and talk a little bit about the collaboration we've had with GFRAS. And so we also provide an MOU template to guide the work of governments and private sector implementers in collaborating to scale digital advisory services. Under the building scalable DOS business models, again, this is really going more towards those tech or agri-tech companies that are at the very beginning stages of their journey. Many will eventually end up in an accelerator, an incubator, or just scaling because of the way that they've approached their technology. But we hope that these tools will provide some very, very early stage guidance on how to ensure that you're really building a technology that's going to be scalable and sustainable. So under this, we have like a customer journey map to understand where you're going to have the pitfalls of supporting a farmer in using your technology. We draw on business model canvas. These have been out there forever, but we've tried to include the community-based agent in that business model because there are cost centers and opportunities and challenges in kind of scaling through agents. We've heard the value proposition is critically important for scaling technology. So we have a canvas for that, a SWOT analysis, critical assumption mapping template, and a total addressable market template. So these are just to help understand who are you trying to reach? What are your assumptions about scaling a technology in a given context? We also have how do you identify agents? We've kind of laid out all of the different types of community agent networks that may exist in a community or in a particular region. And then we have an interview guide that if you're a technology provider, how would you identify the right agent network through? Under recruiting agents, we have everything from position descriptions, interview guides for interviewing agents, codes of conducts, contracts. Similarly, the recruitment journey worksheet for recruiting female agents. Like, how are you going to ensure that you actually recruit female agents if that is an objective? Under training agents, we draw on all of the materials that are publicly available right now and kind of have put those in a training content inventory. We have how do you design your training for agents? How do you ensure that you're thinking about safeguarding of agents as they participate in training? And then actually one of the partners out of Nepal has created their manual for gender transformative digital advisory services, and we've made that available. And then finally, under monitoring agent performance, we look at what are the key indicators for evaluating community-based agents and how would you evaluate them either through assessments from the farmer, a supervisor, et cetera. So this toolkit does not go into all of the human-centered design research because there are a lot of tools out there and we try to stay focused on the smart phone-based applications. So that's at a very high level. I would encourage you to go into, and again, this presentation will be made available so you can use the QR code to go to it. Jump into any of these that you think might be of interest to your organization. Just quickly, I will say there's kind of two main audiences within this toolkit. So if you are an agri-tech company or provider, certain sets of these tools are probably more applicable for you, such as understanding your ecosystem, the business models, the identifying agent networks, a few tools out of the recruiting agents, maybe the content inventory if you do some of your own training, and the indicator template, because it's important for the digital advisory service providers to be thinking about how would you evaluate an agent actually using your technology in the field, whether it's how many visits are you doing, what are different activities that you're doing with farmers, et cetera. And then the other set of the tools that we have are really for those agent network providers, which is the majority of the tools on the right-hand side of recruiting agents, training agents, and monitoring their performance. So depending on who you are kind of entering into the toolkit, certain tools are probably more applicable to you than others. So with that, I will just say as we were providing these tools and reviewing them with the National Steering Committee in Uganda, we discovered that through the conversations, there were lots of questions about, well, what is the role of government in supporting these sort of technologies? How do we avoid competition or overlapping priorities, et cetera? And so we invited GFRAS to help us think through this, given some of their past experiences with these private-public partnerships. So I'd like to invite Ingrid to share a little bit about their experience in this area.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bobbi. I see that the questions are starting to pop up. We will address them right after I talk just a little bit about it. I won't take much time, so we can actually have more time to focus on the discussion. But as Bobbi is saying, a couple of years ago, GFRAS did a very global study looking at apps and especially apps existing in advisory services in general that offered some element of advisory services, and what brought those apps to be scalable, sustainable. Based on that, we developed a document with some sets of recommendations on the things that we had observed that were, let's say, enabling factors for these apps to be scaled up and be taken up by the farming community globally. And one of the things, and when we started sitting down with the Grameen Foundation, with the team from AgriPath, and talking about how we could collaborate, this was one of the areas that really came up. And the more GFRAS went around and discussed with in panels, in conferences with donors, we were faced, I think, with a very stark reality, or the message that we were getting was, public agricultural extension is really under pressure. Public budgets are declining rapidly, and still the need for high quality data-driven advice is really rising. When you look at real data in terms of public investment, this has been decreasing quickly in terms of even a 2-3% decrease can already have a massive impact in how an advisory system has to be structured in a country. So this also created, as we say, the challenge opportunity. This presented as a challenge, but then came that, the advent of AI powered and smartphone-based digital advisory services was also a massive opportunity for scale, but it required actually a new way of working. So we sat down and we looked at how public-private partnerships could allow us to increase scale and impact in advisory service delivery without really expanding more the public payrolls. And what is it that we could do to turn short-term pilots into more sustainable, national infrastructure. And then this document, that's something we worked together, is really targeting, or it's, let's say, having in mind task providers, government ministries, local agent networks who really want to move beyond and think about how we can move beyond isolated projects. How is it that we can work together and establish these partnerships to ensure that we can actually reach more people and work on our strengths, right? Because when we were looking at the advisory, the apps, scalability of apps in general, what we noticed was that very often actors, be it public or private, were spending a lot of time doing a work where they're not the best placed to do. When we were looking at this differently in terms of thinking, what sort of partnerships is it that we can have so that what you do best, you remain doing what you do best, and then you partner with someone who can be an organization, be it a government or a private entity that is already doing that anyway and is placed in a better way to do that. So in this document, we were, let's say, I think one of the main or core discoveries or things we present in this document are really the various operational models that we have found in which these partnerships, public-private partnerships, take place. So we try to give examples of, within these four main areas, as I say, value chain-led ones, large agribusinesses are providing technical training to supply their value chains, especially like high value or like high cost value chains. And the state can act as a facilitator in some instances. We also have the community-based ones where we're looking at, marginalized groups, and you have also NGOs acting as what we call neutral brokers to manage this trust among partners. And we also have digital and ICT enabled models and standards-based models, when you're using market access, like, for example, a sustainability certification to incentivize better farming practices and so on. And I think one of the a big part of our document is looking at what we call the sequential partnerships, the sequential PPP models, where one of the actors often is the public sector or the donors working through the public sector or NGOs also they do the de-risk phase, the high cost of research and development and innovation phases. And then once the system is functional and it's running well, the private sector can actually then take the lead on scaling and operational efficiency. There are examples on this document. You will see we talk about some case studies, so you can look at examples that we found of these different models, where we have, just for one example here, is the Amakrushi in India, where you had precision development managing this high risk build phase before transferring the costs to the government of a state in India, of Odisha, which is a service that is now reaching over 5 million farmers, if I'm not mistaken, at a very, very low cost. We have lots of other examples in this document. And we're also looking at key success factors and tools that the actors or the parties can bring to it so that the construction of this public-private partnership is much more likely to, as we said, use and build on the strengths of each of the actors. So we can, do more with less, which is what everyone seems to be asking everyone to do at the moment. And of course, one very important thing is this memorandum of understanding that is there, is a template that we just looked at, things that were common in some of the agreements that we saw. So if you are someone or your organization or you are part of a government that is thinking about how to establish this, how to even start looking at building a public-private partnership, there is a template there in this document that you can also use to define some roles and responsibilities immediately to start setting up, this conversation and think about that. What we would say, like the conclusions, of course, don't start from scratch, look at existing digital advisory services infrastructure and see how it can be strengthened to partnerships. I know sometimes we all want to be the one who came up with this model or like this solution, but there are many existing things that could be scaled up if we just knew how to partner. As I said, this PPP document is part of a much larger AgriPath toolkit that will be hosted. And then I think before we move to the questions, that's just what I wanted to say. This will be hosted on the GFRAS website. If you go to the GFRAS website, it's not there yet, but we are going to put it on a section where it says knowledge and resources. So it's free. It's, it's like a lot of the elements and the things that we work on, they are Creative Commons licenses. But in this case, it's a free resource that you can go there and look at, and it will be available for you also beyond project duration. So you can download, you can see what serves you. And we will also give you more information, as I said, as we share this recording, as we share the presentation of today, we'll also give you more pointers, and we will promote it very widely once it's uploaded to the website. So this will be there. So from my side, this is what I would like to say. I think we still have some questions here that I can go on the chat. I see that some are being answered, so which is
Yeah,
nice.
so Ingrid, I answered one within the chat because I hit answer live instead of type answer. So I went ahead and put the answer to Albrecht's question about the link to your PPP document in the chat.
Okay, perfect. So we have one here from Richard Kuntz. I believe this is about AgriPath in general, so maybe for Nicole. Did the project collate growth and yield data for different crops from smallholder farmers in the 5 countries involved?
Yes, so there were different studies done, 2 RCTs, one in India and one in Uganda, where they also looked at what kind of crops are grown, which practices are being already applied, and then over 3 years during the study, they also looked at whether, indeed, the application of the digital advisory had led to increased yields at the farm household level. So I'm not quite sure when the results will be available at the scientific results on that, but yes, the project has looked into it as part of the RCT.
Great. So we have one here also from Albrecht. Is this the one you answered? No, because there is a question here. What is the current use of the Farm Better app? So I think this is something else, right? What is the current use of the Farm Better app and which version of it seems to be most promising? Is development of the app going on? And it says, I'm working on a proposal to introduce a DAS in the context of outgrower schemes in Southeast Asia. Any advice for this particular context?
So maybe on the application we can say, so Farm Better is a social enterprise, a startup. So now they were part of this project for 5 years, could also explore their business model, see what works in which country. And so they have been taken different pathways in different countries. I think that's important to highlight. So they are very much based in Kenya, where they are working with farmer cooperatives, which has shown to be work quite well. And so Kenya is a country where they are and remain. In India also, it looks promising for them to engage with farmer cooperatives and offer the hybrid solution. And they are also expanding, for instance, to Sudan, but then that's again really very much through development cooperation funds, where a development cooperation project is asking also for the application to be utilized as part of a project context. But in terms of like a working business model for them as a startup, they have seen that this work with cooperatives, it's what seems to be most promising. Whereas, for instance, in Burkina Faso, we are still trying, as I said at the beginning, to see how this could be integrated with public extension, but the process is extremely slow and much more challenging. So the company is taking different ways, depending on the country context, but also depending on, where there is business for them, right?
Right. So there's a couple of questions or comments more in general here. I see one from Urban. Can the University of Namibia apply to benefit from AgriPath? And use DAS in Namibia. Also, I think one here from Haiti. Can we promote? I think in general, people looking at using these tools and resources. I think there is not really as I said, we are promoting, and these a lot of these tools are already there and available. People can look at them, adapt, and look at it and adapt to their reality and use as they see fit. I think if there are questions regarding adaptability, or if anyone needs a particular guidance on how this was used in this context, this exchange between, individuals, institutions are always encouraged. That's why we are a network, as GFRAS. We are a network so that people remain connected and can look at each other and talk and see how they can, learn from the experiences and what the other did. I see you're putting some more resources where people can access that, right?
I am putting the 2 versions of the app that are downloadable from Google Play Store. It's also available in different languages. But saying that at the same time, as we also saw that, the application needs to be contextualized and that there is this hybrid version that is really working with extension. There are different versions of the application available out there that Farm Better is utilizing. So these are just what you can find on the Google Play Store right now. But then I'm also putting here the link to the Farm Better team. So also for the colleague, was it from Vietnam, I think, if there is questions also to how the application could be used and modified in another context. I mean, as I just said before, in Sudan, they are contextualizing it to the Sudanese context. So it is the Farm Better team, I think, is very open to that also. So I put you the link to the team, and there is Mini Wanjiku. She is based in Kenya, director of program that you can also contact. She is the part of our AgriPath team. And so if there is questions, on how the application could be used or the Farm Better can be used in different contexts, whether it can be modified to Namibia or there could be a collaboration, I think they are very open also to discuss this. But you can also reach out to anyone from ourselves. Maybe Ingrid, we can share some contacts, emails, so people can reach out.
Exactly. I would also like to thank Lakshmi. I saw you are also answering some of the questions that are coming up here. Bobbi as well. We still have a couple of minutes, and I would like them to take advantage of everyone being here so we can answer. One question here is about inclusivity, accessibility in general. How can we promote the AgriPath in developing countries where farmers don't have access to good internet and much of them can read? Which I would also link to the other question here. When will the smallholder farmers be ready to utilize these digital platforms? And what is their attitude towards such tools? I'll give the floor to all of you, but I think one of the things I wanted to say is that sometimes when we're talking about digital tools, we're thinking of very complex things. And many of the times, this is not even what we mean. The farmers are already using, in many contexts, of course, they are already using a variety of different things, their apps, be it WhatsApp, be it a Facebook group, and sometimes there's, of course, a bit more complex tools. But this is already part of the day-to-day operations in many of the places that we're working on and what we see. So I think going back, they are ready. They are ready by doing it. But of course, as we increase a bit of the complexity, then comes the question, how can we ensure that it's still accessible, that it's still inclusive? Maybe Bobbi, you also want to say something about that.
Sure. I mean, I think this is why the AgriPath project was created, as well as the toolkit, is to acknowledge that in certain contexts, it's actually very difficult to scale different types of technology, whether it's DOS related or just generally any sort of technology, because of the difficult, just the cost of smartphone ownership, digital literacy, just basic alphanumeric literacy, et cetera. And that's why agents are often needed to help scale that technology, whether the agent is just using the technology him or herself to support farmers in their community. And so I think that's why the project was set up to both kind of validate that in practice, this is what is required, is that you need people in the community to introduce technology and help support people to use it, or be the actual users of the technology for the benefit of, farmer associations, groups of farmers, et cetera. So hopefully that also explains. So I think in theory, the AgriPath project and the lessons coming out of it hopefully will help guide practice in this area so that I think in the end, we don't want to see reductions in funding for agents because they're still critically important for not just extension, but just for scaling technology as well.
Great. Maybe just a final thing. I see one in general. Maybe this also serves for other people. Someone asking, Justin, how can we partner with AgriPath to help our 4,000 members in Tanganyika Farmers Association benefit from the toolkit? So as you saw, all of these emails and contact, if there's something, look at the resources, and if there's something in terms of support that you would need, you can always contact the teams and see what is still possible or available. I see that there were some questions from Dora. Hi, Dora. None of you remember me, but so we met in Egypt regarding remuneration of agents. And I think, Bobbi, you answered that in the chat, right? So I think that's good. This is the time that we had scheduled for today, but maybe we can close with one question and then we go, just thanking everyone in advance for being here. It's always very nice to see participation, engagement, and your interest. As I said, this is just one kickstart to this conversation, but as we said, it's a network. Please keep engaged and we can really talk more, can really access the resources. But maybe just to close this year, agricultural extension officers in South Africa, and I can tell you that that's not exclusive to South Africa, feel overwhelmed by the number of applications and databases that they are expected to learn and apply. How do we navigate this multiplication now of digital solutions, or any advice based on your experiences? I think it's a great one for you, Bobbi, to close with.
No, I think it's a great question, because I think we all see this exhaustion happening. I mean, I think this is part of why we've designed the toolkit, so that we're leveraging extension agents in the right way. And I think this is kind of where we talked about, Ingrid's talking about the public-private partnership, so that there's a lot more collaboration and vetting of technology, for its value. And also, number one, seeking that collaboration, but making sure that we're also thinking about the reskilling of extension agents as artificial intelligence kind of comes into play and maybe lightens their load. I mean, that's the hope and expectation, right? But I think as we go further, I think extension agents will continue to be critically important as AI attempts to scale within these communities. I don't know if that answers the question fully, but I think it's an ongoing challenge because there are a lot of different providers out there. And I think it's really up to the local communities and the different decision makers in those communities to kind of understand what technologies best fit the farmers in a given region.
With that, I would like again to thank all of you, everyone who stayed here. We had great participation until the end. If, as you think about today's discussion, more questions come to mind, please continue the conversation. There's plenty of resources that we left here on the chat, and we will, again, as I said, circulate a lot more information in next week, including the recording of this session. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. And have a great continuation of your day. Yes?
Can I just say one final word also? Yes, sorry. Thank you, everybody. I'm part of the AgriPath team working at CDE together with Nicole. And I just wanted to say that I shared in the chat a link to the AgriPath symposium. We have closed the physical participation, but you can still register as an online participant. And there will be multiple sessions on this topic of how to effectively develop a business model for digital solutions, but also how to scale them. So yeah, don't hesitate to check out the website and also to register using the link that is in the chat. Thank you.
Perfect. That's a perfect way to continue it. So no more to say other than thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.